So we're gonna have a look at this group of trees here. I'm gonna start by showing you the buds because I've managed to pull down a branch, which was no easy feat because all the lower branches have been pruned off. So if you look really closely, you can see that there are little tiny flowers that are about to come out. And so what we're looking at is the bud burst of the red maple, Acer rubrum. So we have little clusters of buds towards the end of the branches, and you can see that if we look closely at the branching, you'll notice that the branching is opposite. So that's really critical of all maples, but the red maple tends to have these buds that are clustered towards the ends of the branches, and they burst bud early in spring before a lot of other trees have started to burst bud or leaf out. So you can see this one is just starting to leaf out. We're kind of in about mid-March now. So I'm gonna let this go. And let's go have a look at some of the other features. So one thing we can look at is the bark, which you can see typical of a lot of maples. We have some moss growing on it. It's got some furrows and cracks in it, but it's not really super deeply furrowed. The older bark starts to get a bit more furrowed and cracked, but it's still not as cracked or furrowed as some other trees. But we do see this moss, which again, seems to be a typical maple trait. Another thing we can notice and look at is we can try to find leaves on the ground, which we're at the end of the season here, so there aren't really a lot of leaves kicking around. But if you look closely, you might find a few, and you want to make sure you look at more than one leaf because the leaves can be quite variable in size and shape. So you can see this one is really quite small, but if I keep looking, I can find some that are a bit bigger. So here we go. Here's a nice one. So this one's maybe a little bit more typical size. Trying to have it folded open here. And so you can see it has the typical 3 lobes, 1, 2, 3, or maybe a couple almost little side lobes at the bottom here. So this tree has typically 3 to 5 lobes. And since it's a maple, you think we might be able to find some maple keys or samaras, but they just don't seem to make very many of them. And I don't know if that's just the street tree cultivars they pick or what, but yeah, I can't find a single maple key, and I've been looking for months. The other thing about this tree is it tends to often have these really weird, large branches that sort of curve out and upwards as the lowest main branch. So that's something fairly typical. You can have a variety of shapes. So this one over here is quite rounded and large, but there are more upright and narrow trees as well. And in the springtime like this, you can see, even from a distance, you can see the flowers starting to come out, so it gives the tree kind of a reddish hue as well. So yeah, when you're looking at red maple, look for the clustered buds, look for the reddish flowers early in the spring, look for the 3 to 5 lobed simple maple leaves, and yeah, you can look for upright shapes. There's lots of common street trees that are much more upright, or this big open crown. And those will be the helpful traits when you're trying to identify Acer rubrum, the red maple.